So now the practice of shamatha itself. The way that I teach shamatha is how I learned it from Chogyam Trungpa Rinpoche many years ago in the early 70s. He chose this particular method of shamatha to teach his students. I learned shamatha before this from Abu Rinpoche, who was a mountain yogi in the Drukpa Kagyu lineage, the grandson of Shakyasri, who was a great yogi. And it was a progressive stages of shamatha, where I would go see him every couple of weeks. He would check my meditation and give me another method. But that's not how I teach it. I teach just this one method. And I think it sort of covers everything, because it has in it the one-pointedness with the breath, and at the same time, there's a sort of natural transition into what's called laktung, or vipassana in Tibetan. It's not vipassana in the sense of the Theravadan tradition, but it's in the sense of the Tibetan tradition. So sometimes it's called shine laktung. And so shine laktung would be peaceful abiding and clear insight, or clear insight, clear seeing. So laktung or vipassana in the Tibetan tradition is not a method. It's an experience that occurs. And it occurs when the shine, when the calm abiding becomes stabilized, then naturally the laktung takes place. The image that Trungpa Rinpoche used for laktung was like lightning in a dark night. So it's a flash of insight into the nature of reality that comes out of calm abiding practice. But it's not something that you try to make happen. It just happens, and you rest with it. You don't go, oh, yay, laktung. That's not the point. So the way you do the shine in the way that I teach it is simply taking the posture of Arachana. And so this is called the 7-point posture. And it's the posture that I learned from Abu Rinpoche. And it's very commonly taught. So I'll go over those 7 points. So it's easy to remember if you start from your top of your head and you just go down through your body. So the first point of the 7 points is the eyes. And so the eyes should be at a downward angle, the same as your nose. Of course, we all have different kinds of noses in the West, but I guess it's like, it's just that general slope down. And so the eyes aren't closed, and this is something different than how Vipassana, for example, is taught in the Theravadan tradition. The eyes are slightly open, a little bit like a Buddha statue or a Tara statue, where it's a downward gaze, relaxed, but not closed. The reason that we don't close our eyes is because we don't live with our eyes closed. We live with our eyes open. And so what we're practicing essentially is how to be mindful and aware in our lives. So what we're doing really is simplifying the situation by simply sitting and then seeing if we can come into a stable state of awareness from that. So you have your eyes at that angle. The eyes are not focused. You're not like staring at the rug in front of you or the wood or whatever's on the floor or whatever's in front of you. Your eyes are relaxed. It's a relaxed focus. Or you could say they're not focused, which is actually harder than you think, because our eyes are taught to focus. That's what they do. And so you'll tend, after a while, to start staring. And you'll know that you've been staring if the carpet starts to kind of start moving around, or you start to have sort of, sometimes everything will disappear if you've been staring. So you have to keep reminding yourself to just relax the gaze. And then you'll develop a habit of doing it that way. And then the next is the mouth. And so the tongue is placed just behind the hard palate or that ridge that's behind your teeth. So just right behind that. It's just curled up a little bit and resting there. So let's try that. Yeah. And that means your mouth is open. So you're not, gritting your jaw. Your mouth is open. And it's amazing what a difference it makes to have your mouth a little bit open. It naturally relaxes you. So that's the second point. The third point is the neck. And the image that's used for the neck is the shepherd's crook. So shepherd's crook comes up like this, and then it goes round in the back, and then comes around. So that's the back of your head, that round part. And so as you try to find this shepherd's crook neck position, what I suggest is you actually try sort of hunching over a little bit, and then gradually move your chin up and in. And at a certain point, you'll feel a slight tug at the back of your neck. That signals that your back is straightening. So it's not more than that. It's not like you want a big pull or tug back there. If that happens, your chin will be going down. So just as soon as you feel that tug, stop. So that's the third one. The fourth one is the shoulders. So the shoulders are back and down. And so just going to put my legs in the full lotus posture before we get there. But I'll explain it when we get there. So the shoulders are back and down. That means that it's almost like your shoulder blades are sticking out a little bit, like wings. But you're not going like that. Your shoulders are back. And what happens then, if you notice, is your chest opens up. And that makes it easier to breathe. It makes the prana move smoothly. And so that's your shoulders. And then the next is the spine. And so the spine, of course, is very important. If you're going like this, that's not good for meditation. And if you're too rigid, that's not good either. So you want it straight, and the image that's used traditionally is a stack of gold coins, one on the other. So your vertebrae are stacking like that. And then the next is the hands. The hands, traditionally, the way I learned Shamatha, are like this. And women have the left on top, and men have the right on top. So it's not like this, and also your thumbs aren't forward. What'll happen if you start like this, and then you kind of get distracted, and that'll happen. So, and it's vertical, the thumbs over the fingers, and it's just barely touching, so very, very light touch. And it actually makes a difference. Like if you go like this, it's different than if you just barely touch. It creates almost like a circuit of energy. Another option is simply to put your hands on your knees. If you're using this method, you're holding that just below the navel, and your elbows are loose. You're not doing this, and you're not doing this. It's loose and relaxed. Otherwise, simply on your legs near your knees. However it feels comfortable is fine. And then the last of the 7 points is your legs. And so traditionally, you should be sitting in the full lotus posture. When I learned from Abba Rinpoche, he wouldn't let me start meditating if I didn't sit in the full lotus. And I couldn't actually sit in the full lotus. I think I'd gotten into it one time in a swimming pool in Calcutta. I'd actually managed to get my legs like that, but I really couldn't do it. But since he insisted, I did it. And I gradually was able to sit about an hour with in full lotus without any pain. So I know that we're Western, and this isn't easy for everybody. And it's not like you can't meditate if you can't sit in full lotus. But if you do have the potential to do it, and perhaps you're younger and you have flexibility in your body, it's good to train in it if you can. If you do full lotus, then for women, the left foot is on top. And for men, the right foot is on top. This reason for these differences for men and women is because we have different circuits where the energy is moving differently in men and women. And so that's why there's a difference. And same with the sides of the body and so on. For people who feel maybe they're in a man's body, but they feel like a woman, you can choose how you want to do it. There's no firm rules. It's simply what's taught in the yogic tradition according to how the energy flows in the body. So now you have the 7 points: the eyes, the tongue, the mouth. Second one. Third one is the shepherd's crook. The fourth is the shoulders. The fifth is the spine. The sixth is the hands. And the seventh is the legs. So I'm going to sit with my hands on my knees. And then I'm going to begin the Shamatha practice. And I'll explain it as I do it. So first I'm going to check my posture. And it's good to check your posture periodically. Let's say you sit for an hour, once in a while, I'm slouching. Just check it. So bring your attention to the breath. The breath is something that's always moving, it's always changing, and it's something you always have with you. So you don't need to worry about losing your object of meditation. And so when you first begin, simply be with the breath. And remember, I made that distinction between concentration and abiding. So abide with the breath. Rest with the breath. Once you've brought yourself to presence with your breath for a little while, become aware of the space, the openness, the gap at the end of the out-breath. As you breathe in, keep the awareness of that space. You're not altering your breath at all. You're not having a longer exhalation. You're simply keeping an awareness of the space that you attune to at the end of the out-breath. But it's not like that space only exists at the end of the out-breath. That space is always present. But the moment of the turning around of the breath is a natural moment to become aware of that space that's always present. So in this shamatha that I teach, there's a simultaneous awareness of space and the breath, both in the in-breath and the out-breath. And it's not like there's this little space at the end of the out-breath. And one of the ways that Trungpa Rinpoche described it is the gap. But it's not like that gap ends when you breathe in. So it's really through the moment of ending the breath that there's sort of a natural doorway into that space that's always present. But that space is vast. It's limitless. So gap, I don't like it so much as a word because it sounds like it's like this little gap. And it's more than that. When thoughts arise, and thoughts do arise, since that's the nature of our minds, notice, oh, I'm having a thought, or I'm having a feeling. Maybe I've actually been having a thought for the last 5 minutes before you notice. But as soon as you notice, simply come back to the breath. Don't beat yourself up like, oh my God, my meditation's terrible. Or, wow, I really wasn't lost for very long before I caught myself. You don't need to judge it. Simply come back. When you've come back, go back to the method again. And it's not a game of cat and mouse. You're not like trying to catch yourself when you're thinking. It's simply notice you're thinking or feeling something or having a concept and come back. And one thing to know about meditation is there isn't good meditation and bad meditation. There's just meditation. And any meditation's a good meditation if you show up. If you're on your cushion and you're there. That's a good meditation. Sometimes when it's difficult, that's equally important part of training because the mind isn't always stable. The mind can be all over the place. And if we get caught in the idea that, I'm not going to meditate because I'm too agitated, or I know I'm going to have a bad meditation if I go to meditation today because I'm upset, that's really a mistake. You go and you put in joyful effort, diligence, you just show up. All you have to do is show up. And really you're showing up for yourself, to be with yourself. In our culture today, we're so out moving and outwardly grasping. And so meditation is like a vacation. Just come back, take a break, and rest in calm abiding.